ESG is so pervasive right now that I feel like they are going to be the ones to bail out the whole SBF thing. I mean, they were heavily invested in that as well, and everything he talked about was trying to be. He had a perfect. FTX is the only company with a perfect ESG score.
Yep.
So
but why do you think that
Disney does? But
why do you think that FTX will ever be bailed out?
Because they're already talking about it.
They're too big to fail. I mean, it's the same.
People are already saying this. NPR is saying this. Breitbart has made the
look who's all connected to
the
FTX scandal.
Because you got to reward your allies. He's been a great ally to the people who have the power to bail him out.
Also, this is a big deal for effective altruism. If they let that fail, that whole movement fails too.
Yeah, well, talking about effective altruism, SBF might have almost sunk that himself since he can't seem to stay off of Twitter and incriminating himself. Now he's like, his private messages are being leaked, and he's got this one out where he was talking to Portnoy, and Portnoy said, Dave Portnoy said, you were really good at talking about ethics for someone who kind of all saw it as a game with winners and losers. And SBF responds, yeah, I had to be. It's what reputations are made of to some extent. I feel bad for those who got effed by it. By this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we say all the right, I'm sorry, I don't know this word. Shibboleths, and so everyone likes us. So his whole
it's a Hebrew word for a term that you say you don't believe it, but it's a lie that gets you into the club. It's a way that like you wave the flag that's in your pocket, and the other person raises the same flag and waves it at you, stuff it back in your pocket. That's the shibboleth. It means nothing. It's a meaningless little statement. You say it like, I'm being altruistic. Wow. They say, oh, I like that. And then it doesn't mean anything. You steal their money, and then they'll bail you out. And that's what he's admitting to. It's all a grift.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole effective altruism thing has been a grift from the beginning. I mean, his whole thing was, I just want to make money to give it away. That's why I've got a $40 million apartment in the Bahamas and do meth sex parties with my company of thieves. Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah, come to Allegan, Michigan and do meth sex parties like an adult.
The word means virtue signal. It's the Hebrew word for virtue signal, basically, is what Tom said.
Okay.
I just simplified it.
That's what somebody else said in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I just was not familiar with it. I appreciate that.
Well, it's been around a lot longer than that, virtue signal. But I like that they've summed it up in that two words. It's a lot better.
Yeah, it is an old word. And I don't think it always used to mean lie. I think it's come to mean lie, but it used to. The dictionary definition is like a custom, principle, or belief distinguishing a particular class or group of people, especially a long-standing one regarded as outmoded or no longer important. So.
Yeah, but as Frank was saying, let's take a look at all the people who are investing in FTX and why I think I've been saying this since the start of this thing is I think he's going to get bailed out. He still hasn't been extradited to the United States. Yep. Everybody's kind of speculating. On December 7th, they're still going to push through his bill to try to centralize crypto. And here's a list of every Republican who took money from SBF or FTX executives in 2022 cycle. So the Democratic list is not shocking to anybody that this guy is the number 2 donor to the Democratic Party, only behind George Soros, right? And then I remember I was getting fact checked by a lot of people, and I was getting a lot of crap from people for saying like this is a money laundering scheme. They're like, it can't be. It's Republicans too. And I'm like, no, you're not getting it. If you look at the list, and I said this before the names were out, I said if you look at the PACs that he's donating to, all of them say forward-thinking Republicans. All of them say Republicans who are cool with lockdowns. And I can insinuate from everything it's saying about the type of Republican, the establishment Republicans, they're all going to be very heavy in favor of sending all of your tax money to Ukraine. And now we have the list. And, right at the top, $2.5 million to the Senate Leadership Fund, which is Mitch McConnell, the Congressional Leadership Fund, which is McCarthy, another $120,000 to Team McConnell, Take Back the House, another McCarthy, $100,000. And you can just go on and on down the list of these.
Some of this is just him throwing money away. Like he also gave money to Herschel Walker right there under Marco Rubio. And I don't know how you can explain that other than just him being stupid with his money. And by the way, we were saying his money. It's not his. It's client funds. He stole it. This is why I don't understand how he'd ever get a bailout. He didn't lose the money. He stole it. There's no bailing needed. There's retrieval needed.
Right.
But there isn't going to be though.
Right. Well, I think too, like you're saying, like Herschel Walker and stuff like that. Like he had a bad track record of giving like tons of money to candidates who lost big, and then also tons of money to candidates who had no competition. And I think he's just trying to grease the skids for the legislation that he wants, for the type of money laundering that he's involved in. So
or give money to Herschel Walker early just to make sure he gets through the primary, and then he becomes the guy who can't beat Warnock.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I think that's what you see with like the JD Vance as well. That was somebody they were trying to do that to as well.
Well, this is like not even a secret Democrat agenda anymore. Is let's fund the MAGA Republicans that we think will lose. Let's fund the America First candidates that we think will lose, and then we can make the whole America First movement look bad by picking who we think are bad candidates. And I'm not saying Herschel Walker's a bad candidate. I'm just saying that was they've stated this openly on CNN. That they want to pick people that they think will lose. That's actually what they did with Donald Trump, by the way, and it totally backfired on them, which I love.
The TV host wrote checks to Trump's campaign back in 2015, 2016.
A lot of them.
But they learned, though, they flooded the money. Some of it, they flooded the market with money, some of it the FTX. And for example, in Arizona, it made it hard for Blake Masters, because Mark Kelly had a ton of money, was flooding the zone with ads, and it drove up the rates for TV ads. Blake Masters couldn't compete. Blake Masters was outspent, I believe, if you look at outside money, including his money, by like $67 million. And he barely kind of lost when you look at how much money he was outspent by.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and you actually have the Kerry Lake campaign actually making a lot of noise about that right now, and a lot of their filings there in Arizona related to the FTX funding and things like that Katie Hobbs and the election officials were receiving during that campaign cycle.
Nice.
Thank you so much for checking out this clip from the Last American Pubcast, the only podcast where everybody knows your name. And hey, while you're here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and join us on a Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, you might get stuck with the tab.